I've been clean and sober for 22 years. Whether it's the drugs, whether it's women, whether it's the alcohol. What I did in my past is not who I am in my present.
Hi, Mr. Powell. Welcome to Online Book Club. We're excited to have you with us.
Glad to be here.
Let's unpack the title of your book, Living in a Two-Faced Jungle. How did you come about this title? And why did you choose jungle as a metaphor to describe your life?
Um, Grandmaster Flash, one of the first hip hop groups, Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five, they wrote a song called The Message. And in the message, the hook of that song was, it's like a jungle, sometimes it makes me wonder how I keep from going under. And I thought of the title because my life was like a jungle. And sometimes I wondered how I kept from going under. And with the two-faced part, how I felt that life turned on me, over and over again after I thought I was selling smooth, and life would turn on me in different parts of my life, which brought the title of the book, Living in a Two-Faced Jungle.
Yeah, music is such a powerful tool, a great place to draw inspiration from, really. Let's talk about how you have navigated societal expectations. In your book, you openly shared about your experiences, some of which have intersected with harmful stereotypes about African American men to be exact, such as drug use, violence, hypersexuality. So I would love to know, how have you worked? How did you work? Because you've worked really hard. How did you work to reclaim your narrative and disrupt these stereotypes? And what do you hope readers take from your book?
Well, I would like the readers to take from my book that everything that I needed was actually already inside of me, and it wasn't nothing outside that I needed. Everything that I drew that was outside of me brought me down, whether it's the drugs, whether it's women, whether it's the alcohol, or anything that I chose to put inside of me or bring into my life brought me down, and it was a negative. Nothing positive came from the outside. So my conclusion in that scenario was that everything that I needed was already inside. I want the reader to take that, what I did with my life, anybody could do. I'm not trying to set myself up to be a powerful example. I would rather set myself up to be an example of the power of God. Yes.
That's a great message and one that deserves to be shared. You defined insanity as doing the same thing and expecting different results. When I read that, I was like, hold on. This is something a lot of us do, a lot of us as humans do. But that doesn't make it any less crazy, because it's actually very crazy to do the same thing and expect different results. Yeah, and that statement really drew me in. It was under step 2 of your steps to recovery from addiction. Did you have an outline or idea of these steps while recovering, or did you discover them during your journey and write them down and organize them in your memoir in retrospect?
Well, inside of the steps are what we call 12 core principles, and in the second step, the core principle is open-mindedness. Open-mindedness gets you to see things from other points of view without going into denial. And without going into denial, I can see that I was trying to do good, and in the midst of all that, I ended up doing the same thing and expecting different results. Going to jail, and I was still using drugs and trying not to go to jail. That's not the right combination. Every time I used drugs, I would go to jail.
Okay, let's talk about some of these steps then. Step 1, you said, when I think I have control, I've lost control. When I heard that, he had me snapping my fingers, because this is the reality of so many drug addicts. I knew a couple drug addicts when I was in college, and their mantra was, I can stop whenever I want to. And they believed this wholeheartedly, even if they were borrowing money to buy drugs and ruining their lives. They believed they were in control. So yeah, I can imagine how deeply delusional they must have been to believe this. So what I want to know is, how did you set this delusion aside, accept the truth, and surrender?
In order to understand the whole concept, in step one, once you think you got control, you lose control, is that exactly how you explained it and how you interpreted it. With step two is understanding the insanity of it all, what I'm trying to get away from, but I end up keep running towards it, and being able to think that I could ever control something as powerful as addiction is insanity in itself. And, it's all about, things like surrender, respect, responsibility. That's all lined in the 12 steps that I talked about. Courage, integrity, perseverance, uh, brotherly love, discipline, awareness, surrender, and growth. All of those are lined up. And once you understand, starting out with definitions and then concepts of all of these principles that are lined in the 12 steps that I talk about, and then you apply them in your life, and, you pretty much start living different and seeing things different.
All right, let's talk about step 7. In step 7, you said, I am starting to understand that my God is tailor-made to fit my reality. Could you speak more on that?
Well, it's like my reality, it is what it is, my reality. And it's either the dream world or living in the real world. And, my reality has never been a pretty one. Being able to accept my reality. Sanity and versus insanity, sanity is me making peace with my reality, because where I come from and what I went through, reality. And if I never was able to make peace with it or accept it for what it was, I would have went crazy, straight towards insanity. And God has a way of filtering those hard looks that I need to see. And when I do finally am able to look at it, it doesn't look as bleak. That's where hope comes in at.
Now that is wisdom. Okay, let's move to step 10. In step 10, you address relapses. I think that's a very significant step, because relapses are not really talked about when people talk about freedom from addiction. Nobody really addresses the fact that you will most likely go back to your bad habits one day. So it feels really hopeless when people trying to recover relapse, because it's like, oh, I've been clean for this long and this little temptation made me fall. So what's the point? Yeah. So I would love to know, how did you navigate relapses?
I've been clean and sober for 22 years, so I haven't actually relapsed. I've been in relapse process. That's what they call it. You know, uh, Not getting high or doing drugs, but doing things that I used to do and act when I was on drugs. I gravitate towards acting like I'm on drugs. And that's how, step 10, it focuses more on still being able to see myself for who I really am, instead of, believing into that illusion that I've accepted, that I put myself in as somebody else, being somebody who I think I am, who I'm really not. And step 10 gets you to where you can actually see the picture without being in the frame, you know, so to speak.
I think step 12 really amplifies what you just said, and brings light to everything you have written in your book. He said, "In the pursuit of perfection, I shall fail miserably in obtaining it. However, I will along the way spot Mr. Improvement. I will run into Miss Excellence while chatting with my associates, Mr. Good Job, aka Attaboy." I think these are excellent words and they deserve a billboard somewhere in Times Square. What I want to know is what inspired you? Why did you choose to share your life so openly with the world?
Well, that part that you read, um, my publisher actually liked that part a lot too. And actually, I wanted to edit that part and take it out because I thought it was really corny. He said, no, 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 let's keep it in there. And because he had never heard anything like it, and step 12 really talks about, what I am and who I am is nothing that I need to be ashamed of, because what I did in my past is not who I am in my present. So, step 12 focuses on it allows me to see that there are other people who need to hear my story and can benefit from hearing my story, because a lot of people who are where I used to be don't have any hope, haven't thought about changing their lives, could be somebody great and living in a park bench. My story, I did it in hopes of being able that somebody would read it. Somebody would pick it up and read it. It's a book that I read. It says, if you shall come across this book, do yourself a favor and read it. Don't throw it away, because there's a lot of hope in the book.
It was very brave of you to pull yourself from the dark place you were in to the position to where you are right now and share your story to help others in dark places. We've come to the end of our interview. Thank you so much, Mr. Powell.
Thank you.